So I got some good news and I've got some bad news. The good news is that I sold my current house. It's amazing, actually. What's really amazing is that in terms of what I made on it, I have like 1.2 million in this house, and I sold it for 2.1 million. So that's pretty awesome. I've been here for 5 years, and so once again, everybody, real estate is something that is definitely a way to increase your wealth if you know what you're doing. But if you don't, you could also lose a bunch of money, which is what I'm going to do on the other house that I haven't actually finished yet, which brings me to the bad news. I am not done with that house yet. Hopefully in the next 30 days we will be, because I got to be out of this one and we got to move. I also today need to go over there, so I thought, why not talk about some of the things that I needed to give up in order to make millions of bucks. So I would really love to show you like everything, because it's looking so good and the landscaping's going in. But apparently I'm not able to, and the reason is because there's this like big deal like publication that may or may not want to actually do a story on me and the fact that I'm building this house, and it's a cool house, and if it's overexposed and I talk about it too much, they won't actually do it. So I've been instructed to shut my mouth and not talk about the house, but don't tell anyone. So it's been a minute since you guys have been here. Want to see something really funny? All right, I've got a mirror on my refrigerator. Is that funny? I don't know, a little scared. Anyway, what's happening? ¿Qué pasa? It looks really good. Looks really good. Ooh, so sexy. Oh gosh. So sexy. Look at this, would you? Oh my God, it's so good. We're starting to almost be like close to being done, right? My closet's going in. My wife's closet is much bigger than mine, and just super, super, super amazing. Anyway, check out this view from my bedroom. Look at this. Oh God, it is so unbelievable. My landscaping starting to go in. Ooh, yes. What do you think? It's so good. Anyway, speaking of good, let's actually go over here and talk a little bit about some of the things that I had to give up, honestly, because I've really been thinking a lot about business, about entrepreneurship. So the other day, I was thinking a little bit about just this whole idea and concept of like success. I was also thinking about kind of my history and the road that I took in order to get where I am. And I started to think a little bit more about some of the things that I actually had to give up in order to finally be successful. One of those things is my identity as an entrepreneur and as a person. And I've mentioned this in another video, but your identity and what you think and who you feel you are has to change a lot of times in order for you to overcome or basically just be successful. Because when I really think about myself and the fact that I, for my entire life, viewed myself as like a fitness guy, it needed to change in order for me to be something different. And one of the things you've got to understand is that when you decide to be something different or choose to be or have a different identity, it basically is going to ruffle some feathers. And that's something you've got to be okay with. You may also lose some friends, which is also something that I had to give up in order to be successful. I was not around people that were inspiring. I also was not around people that were honestly like good and healthy for me. They were not healthy for themselves. And the reason is because, and I'm just gonna, the fitness industry a lot of times is full of a bunch of drug addicts, honestly. They party a lot, they use a lot of drugs, and when I was in this fitness world, those are the people that I was kind of around. And when I look at now, well, first off, a lot of the people that I was hanging out with aren't around anymore because they've, had heart attacks, or they've died young, or they've overdosed, or whatever. And I think about the fact that I was able to kind of escape that world. I truly feel like if I would still be, or if I tried to make that identity or that life my career, and I kept hanging out with those people, I kept being in that environment, I would either be in jail or not around, or definitely not successful. I had to give that up. I had to quit. I also had to quit doing self-destructive things in terms of drugs and alcohol. I'm not gonna get into my whole history with drugs and alcohol. I've never done super hard stuff, but I would smoke. And I'm also sweating my ass off, so I apologize in advance, but I would smoke weed. And it didn't do anything good for me. I thought at the time it was like, oh, it's just chilling me out, right? It didn't do anything good. It made me unmotivated. It also made me lazy, and it made me eat bad food because I was one of the guys that got like insane like munchies. And so I stopped that. I stopped doing it altogether. It's literally been over 20 years since I've smoked, and I don't miss it at all. A lot of my friends do. I'm not saying that there's anything technically wrong with it, but for me, I had to stop in order to basically get straight in terms of my motivation and my direction. But something that was bigger for me and a bigger deal was alcohol. And I've mentioned that on a bunch of occasions because alcohol was something that I struggled with for a very long time. It was what I chose to use as kind of like my crutch, and also it's what I used to basically self-medicate because I had a lot of unresolved issues from my childhood or from my past that I just never dealt with. And so I would drink, and I would get like blackout drunk. I would drink way too often, and it was something that was detrimental to me, not only physically, but also mentally. And when I decided to actually quit chewing tobacco, because that was something that I was very addicted to, and I'm embarrassed to admit that, but I had a 2-can-a-day habit from the age of 18 until I quit. I guess it was 30 when I quit. So I did it for like 12 years, 2 cans a day. And when I decided that I wanted to quit that because I didn't want to get cancer, I also realized that I had to quit drinking because drinking was a huge trigger. At the time, I didn't even realize what a big deal or what a big issue drinking was for me. But I quit drinking because I knew that, okay, if I want to quit this nicotine, I need to stop drinking because it was a trigger. Every time I'd have a sip of beer or whatever, I would crave nicotine. And so I quit for 6 months. And what happened was amazing. Not only was I able to quit the nicotine, which I didn't think I would ever be strong enough or able to quit that. I was so addicted to it. And I loved it. I loved doing it. I loved, putting a dip in, and I would do it every day, and it was just a part of who I was, and that was part of my identity as well. So in order for me to quit nicotine, I knew that I needed to stop drinking. And it wasn't even that I thought like I had a drinking problem, even though I knew that I did. It wasn't the reason I was not drinking. I was not drinking because I wanted to quit nicotine. Well, coincidentally, 6 months later, and it didn't take 6 months, it literally took like a week of me not drinking, that everything started to change in terms of my mentality, in terms of my happiness, in terms of my body physically. I was healthier, I looked better because I wasn't consuming all the beer, all the empty calories. What most people don't realize is the early days of YouTube, I was drunk in every video, every single video. And my whole thing was I would go to the store on my way home from personal training, and I would get a 6-pack of beer. I'd put it by a little credenza where I was filming. In between takes, I would drink. By the time I was done filming, I'd drink a 6-pack. I was passed out on the couch typically before my wife would get home. This was not a good place to be. So anyway, yeah, about that. So anyway, I quit drinking, and that was one of the things that truly I feel changed my life the most. Every single aspect of my life got better. Something else that I did that has to do with YouTube is I stopped trying to be something that I wasn't. And once again, in the early days of my YouTube career, I was trying to put on an act. I thought I needed to be or act a certain way, and so I was doing and saying things that weren't necessarily true to who I was and my character. I've taken most of those videos down because I was embarrassed of who I was, and it wasn't who I wanted to be, and I didn't want that out there for the world to see. Anyway, the interesting thing about when you drop the act and when you stop trying to live for somebody else or be something that you're not, a lot of things happen and a lot of things change. For me, when I actually started to be authentic and real with who I was and what I wanted to be and who I wasn't, that's when everything truly got better for me. I felt better about myself. I didn't feel like I was lying to the world or even myself. And it was amazing because when I dropped the act, that's when people kind of connected with me in a deeper and more amazing way. When I dropped the act and just got authentic and let people see me as flawed as I am or as vulnerable as I want to be, that's when everything kind of changed. And that's when I truly feel like I found myself and my own confidence. And it was pretty amazing. You don't need to be something that you're not. You don't need to try to prove anything to anybody. And that's just something that I want you to understand. You can be and do anything that you want in this world. It's up to you. You don't have to live for somebody else, and you also don't need to try to act like you're better or worse or something that you're not. Drop the act, get authentic, because that, in my opinion, is something that true confidence is built from. Something else that I had to do was stop being alone. And this one was something that was hard for me to do. I gave up friendships or hanging out with the wrong people, but then I adopted another habit that was bad for me, and that was being isolated. I didn't go out, I didn't see people, I didn't have new friends. When I lost the friends that I had with the fitness center, I just didn't make new ones. It wasn't until I found, or Antonio Centeno and I got together, that I found my tribe. And that was another pivotal moment in my life when everything started to get better and scale. And I was surrounded by people that got me, that I wanted to be around. If you don't have people in your life that inspire you, that have your back, that are uplifting, you've got to find better friends, period. And that was something for me that changed everything. And that's one of the other reasons why I love the White Label Empire so much, is that we have been able to build a community of literally like 900 amazing men and women that are all helping each other do something incredible, which is start a business. Guys, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this, but if you have not joined the White Label Empire, I've got a link down below. I want you to join. And I've heard you. A lot of you were like, hey, $400 is a little bit too much for me. Well, good news. All right, we still have that one-time payment option of $400 in order to join and become a member, lifetime member, or you can join for $97 a month and cancel anytime. So guys, if you're interested, if you have not joined, if you've been thinking about it, do not wait. Start today. The link is below. I am not going to keep this open much longer, and the reason is because I only want 1,000 people in this group, in this community, in order for me to be able to better serve and help the people that are in there. If it gets too big, I'm not going to be able to do that. Every single week, I do a live coaching call. I also am in there every single day answering your questions. I have built a course and a curriculum to walk you step by step by step through the process of starting a business. I talk about marketing, I talk about sourcing, I talk about how to choose the proper product. Guys, do not wait. Now is the time. If you're ready to truly change your life, hit the link down below, because starting a business was what has truly changed my financial future and destiny. Period. All right? When you look around at all the people you know, the people that are truly killing it, they're not working a 9-to-5 job. All right? They don't have a W-2 that they're basically getting every year. They are working for themselves. Period. Starting a business is how you truly will change your financial life and future. Period. It's not easy, but it's possible. And I'm going to help you do it. Guys, I'm going to link to it down below if you want to get started. But anyway, back to my friends. When I was surrounded by people that were better suited for me and my tribe, like I talked about, that in and of itself was one of the single things that I can point to that has truly changed my life, because I was inspired. I was around people that weren't bringing me down emotionally or mentally. It was people that were uplifting, that were helping me, that we could talk to, that we could commiserate, that got me. And when you're around people that get you and that are not toxic, it's amazing what happened, which brings me to something else that I need to give up, and that is some of the people in my life that were toxic for me. It's not that they were bad people, but they weren't good for me. And honestly, this is a very hard thing to give up, because people can also be an addiction in terms of being treated poorly. And I come from a long line of people pleasers, and I have done my fair share of trying to convince people to be my friend when they weren't good for me. And this was also something super hard, and I still to this day struggle. You know, it's funny, because when you think about an addiction, right, I have an addictive personality, right? But that goes not just for like substances, that also goes for people. I, for whatever reason, have a difficult time, I guess, standing up for myself or truly wanting, it's not even wanting the best for me, because obviously like I want the best for me, but I spent way too much of my life trying to please other people that didn't deserve me. I am an incredible friend. I also give a lot to people that I love. And unfortunately, no matter how much you love somebody or how much you give to them, it doesn't mean that they are going to reciprocate. And like a drug, it can become devastating. and emotionally toxic for you. And that's what happened for me. I had people in my life that didn't deserve me and I needed to get rid of. It, like I said, wasn't that they were bad people, but I needed to quit them in order for me to feel better about myself. And at the time when you do that, when you get away from people, whether or not it's your family, I mean, because that's the other reality. Sometimes these people are like super close. It can be a family member, it can be a husband, it can be a wife, it can be a brother, it can be a friend. When you get rid of them or you decide, no, I can't hang out with you, I can't be around you, it's hard. And you want to go back, right? And you fall into that like toxic, like abused puppy mentality. It's like, I just want to get back. I want to go back. I just want to be friends with them. And you can't. It's kind of like the alcoholic. You can't take that sip because one sip will lead you down the road of destruction and bad behavior. And so that was something else that I had to give up. The other thing and the last thing I had to give up was being a control freak. And this is something that I didn't realize I was such a control freak. My wife would say, you're a control freak. Or people would tell me, like, you really like to control things. And I'd be like, no, not me, right? And then I'd tell them how to do something. Well, when I finally got out of my own way and decided to give the keys to marketing and kind of like the direction of the business over to somebody, Mike Levy, who was better suited for leading and running that ship, Pete and Pedro, that's when everything kind of got better because I was able to focus on the things that I was good at and that I loved doing, which was creating content and overall strategy. And I wasn't good at the minutia and the things that aren't really fun and exciting that you have to do in order to run a successful business. But when I finally got out of my own way and gave up trying to control everything myself, that once again was a time that I can look at that truly allowed me to grow as an entrepreneur, but also as a business person and a person. So anyway, I just have been thinking a lot about success and, the fact that there are a lot of videos and people out there saying, you need to do this, you need to do that. Well, I kind of realized that in order for me to be successful, I had to stop doing a lot of things because it was these things that we talked about in today's video that truly held me back from being my best self and moving myself in the right direction. And if you're like me and you have an addictive personality or you're a control freak, maybe this is an eye-opener. Maybe this is an opportunity for you to kind of look at yourself and look at areas in your life that you can change or things that you need to give up in order to move forward and in a better direction. Anyway, guys, if you dug this video, why don't you do me a solid and drop it one of these. If you dig the house, be like, yo, Alpha, that house is gonna be sick. I can't wait to see it. Unfortunately, it's probably gonna be a while because these things that we're about to do, hopefully take a while to do, but someday you're gonna get the final Alpha M house tour and it's gonna be epic.